So I'm sure a lot of people already know this game if they're a fan of my content. It was a hit indie horror game where one player gets to play as a bloodthirsty killer, while the rest of the players get to play as helpless survivors. It was made by a relatively unknown company at the time and sold well to multiple people, including many streamers and YouTubers. Dead by Daylight is still an influential part of the gaming sphere, as recently there was an announcement that Five Nights at Freddy's would be collaborating with them, a huge W for both communities. Well, maybe more so to the DBD community. So then why am I not playing it as much as I used to? I devoted hundreds of hours into the game in the first few weeks of buying it, but after that my playtime fell off a cliff. Why is that? Well, strap in folks, as this is about to be an extremely personal review of Dead by Daylight, and why I got burnt out of it. But first, be sure to subscribe, as I do content like this on a regular basis. And with that, let's begin. Dead by Daylight, to those unfamiliar, is an asymmetrical horror game where 5 players drop into a game together. One of them acts as the killer, while the rest of them become the survivors. As a killer, your goal is to kill every survivor. As the survivors, your goal is to not die, and to repair 5 generators, which are scattered across the map. If you die, you lose and can queue into another match. Cool, great, awesome concept. There's a lot of interesting depth to be found in this game, but the basic mechanics of it are really simple. You run around either chasing survivors or running away from the killer. The survivors smack killers with pallets early through windows, and complete whatever objective you have for your specific role. And then this is the part of the video where I stop with the nice things and start bitching about the game. Sit tight folks, it's about to get really hot in here. Both survivors and the killer have interesting dynamics to keep in mind while playing the game, and certain parts of those dynamics are what keep me from truly enjoying the game. I don't want to repeat myself throughout the video, so I'll say it here. Just because I'm complaining about this game doesn't mean I will uninstall it in a blind fit of rage. I actually do kinda like the game, I just see some flaws in parts of its design that I want to talk about. So no gamers, I do not just hate on a game because I'm bad, even though I am. But there are certain parts that annoy me or irritate me that I want some place to yap about it. In terms of survivors, my main gripe is in solo queue. Since you are in a team of 4 other survivors, and not just by yourself, you have to work together in order to actually survive. Except when you don't. However, working together doesn't work when you can't hear your teammates on the other side. I firmly believe Survive with Friends is both the best and worst way to play this game, and the reason why is twofold. I promise I actually have a point here. One, it's the best way to play since you can actually communicate, which is normally something you would want to have in a team setting like this. It means you can actually plan a way to buy your team time to complete the generators, since they take so long to finish, which is fair I suppose. Not everyone has a degree in repairing random generators I found in the forest. 2, it's the worst way to play the game because it ruins the whole fucking horror movie angle we've got going on here. Many games have some sort of emotional goal behind them. Deceiving tries to make you feel like you're in a spy movie, Rainbow Six Siege and Insurgency Sandstorm try to immerse you into a military situation, and Call of Duty tries to make you feel like shit. Dead by Daylight, meanwhile, has a goal of trying to give you your own personal horror movie, where you're separated from your group of friends as they're picked off one by one, leaving you wondering if you're next. And well, if you can tell your friends 500 miles away, or around 800 kilometers if you're not stupid, that the killer is in the house over there, then I don't think there's much horror to be found there. Which is when we come back to solo queue and survivor gameplay. Not having a line of communication is certainly what Dead by Daylight intends for you to have, and certainly ups the emotional factor of the game, but once the emotion wears off and you're left with just the gameplay, it becomes a lot easier for it to just feel like your teammates aren't doing anything. Sure, the HUD tells you if they're repairing a generator or something, but that's all the communication you really get. Meaning if someone is cleansing a totem while your entire team is dying, you're more likely to yell at them to actually do something than ask them if they're cleansing Hex Ruin. The only true line of communication you can receive in solo queue is the after-game text chat, which is not very helpful. And more than a few times I've received cheater allegations when my internet was just being a bit funky that day. I do laugh it off, as words on a background of Dwight running don't really matter that much to me, but it still doesn't look pretty for people without thick skin. And I hate to bring up the endless debate of whether or not death threats in game chat qualify as harassment, or if people just can't handle quote-unquote trash talk, but I also understand that people just shouldn't be this fucking mean to each other. However, in Dead by Daylight, I do kind of understand why this happens. A friend of mine actually thought up this theory and brought it up to me, so kudos to them if they're watching, but I will briefly summarize what they had to say. The reason why toxicity is so rampant in Dead by Daylight and games like it is because the games can tend to drag on for a really long time. While it isn't unheard of for the killer to insta-kill every survivor within 5 minutes, those usually aren't the ones that receive the toxicity, minus the passing cheater allegations. The really long games are usually where the mean comments come out. Now, I personally haven't received a whole lot of these comments, but whenever I do, it's usually when a match has dragged on longer than it needed to. and I think it's a big problem that games do need to address. Now, I'm not saying make games last a minute, heck no. If I wanted short-form entertainment, I would go watch something on Instagram Reels. Not TikTok because I'm slightly better than those freaks. But I don't think a game should have 20 rounds where each round can range from a minute to half an hour. Looking at you, Valorant. I don't know if this can be done for Dead by Daylight, sadly, as we are already too far deep into a rabbit hole of weird design decisions. But if the endgame collapse could start at least around the 20-minute mark, then that would be good to prevent hour-long games from ever reaching this planet. And that is the problem I also have with killers. If you're losing, you have to wallow in that despair for the entire match, which can take a really long time if survivors feel like taking their vengeance out on you. This issue is only compounded by the timer locking you out if you disconnect from the match, going up for every disconnect until it takes you days to be able to play again, which I guess is just a blessing in disguise. I would much prefer an option for both sides to have a surrender option that doesn't lock you out of matchmaking, or at the very least, a reminder to go outside and touch grass every once in a while. Also, I do want to bring up an unfortunate truth, and that is Dead by Daylight is no longer scary. Maybe that's just because I know everything now and can loop around killers without so much of a second glance, but it just doesn't have the same feeling of dread when I play it now. I have an equal feeling of dread, more towards if my teammates are going to perform well, or if they're just going to start making a sandwich in the middle of the game. And even in my earliest experiences with the game, if I was scared, it was more of a cheap jump scare than an actual looming threat. It was the equivalent of the Five Nights at Freddy's games to me. Sure, they're meant to be horror, but it's not really meant to be making you overly anxious about whether or not you will survive the next night. Now that part really can't be helped, as what is scary is very subjective to people. What scared me when I was a baby doesn't really faze me as an adult. Clowns might frighten someone, but they might just look ugly to someone else. Dead by Daylight could be scary for you, and that's okay. But the objective truth is that Dead by Daylight isn't scary for a lot of people, even though it is in the horror genre. Another gripe that I will bring up with Dead by Daylight, that is actually a gripe a friend has with the game, is that it tries way too hard to be a competitive game when it really shouldn't be. And I will partially blame the esports boom for that viewpoint many people have on this game. While it is good for games like this to have a semblance of balance, making it fair for both sides, a game like this is inherently unbalanced. It's asymmetrical. There are clear advantages that one side has over another. The killer can actually kill the survivors, while the survivors only have dinky flashlights and wooden pallets to fight back with. Making this game come anywhere close to having a competitive scene kind of hurt the game, at least in my eyes. It doesn't help that since there are two asymmetrical sides, it's not a team against another team. It's one guy versus 4 teammates. Meaning it's a real headache and a half to explain how brackets work for this game. I added this gripe in last second before I decided to record for this video, but I've tried revisiting DBD a few times just to see if I can get back the spark that I had when I first played the game, and I kind of regretted it. Sure, playing Demogorgon was fun and easy, and I definitely wanted to get good at them, but playing as Survivor felt like there was a lot outside of my control. And obviously, there are going to be sides of the game that are more enjoyable to some people. I fully will admit that it is a valid thing to have. But my critique is when half the game feels barred off from me because of the fact that I'm just not good enough at Survivor to actually feel confident. A skill issue on my part, sure, but a game like this probably shouldn't have such a high skill curve if it wants to bring in newer players. And my final gripe that'll list in this video is something that it's not even fully a gripe. I do understand where the devs are coming from with this, but it doesn't stop the fact that it can annoy me, at least a little. The highly requested game mode, 2v8, isn't even a permanent game mode as of right now. While I do get that it's meant for developers to receive feedback on the mode and to gauge what they can do to improve it, it does annoy me that we could potentially live in a future where this game mode is released once, and then never again. That probably isn't a realistic prospect though, as there was a lot of effort put into this mode, and they probably wouldn't want it to go to waste. But I still can't put a lot of faith into the studio that made Freddy Krueger this bad. And now you're probably curious about the second part of this title. Why did I get burned out of Dead by Daylight? Why am I playing other games much more often? And why haven't I made a single Dead by Daylight video up until now? Well, I do want to address the fact that no, it's not because my friends endlessly made fun of me for playing the game, though we'll touch on the social aspect of the game in a moment. I just simply got tired of playing the game. Crazy, right? The endless grinding is one thing that I will point out that helped my quiet quitting of Dead by Daylight. While I do have a sizable amount of characters unlocked and prestiged, there is still a bunch of characters that I haven't prestiged yet. This is a shame, because I really want to try out every single perk and see how well they mesh with my playstyle, but I just can't because getting blood points is a frustrating nightmare. And while I could easily try them out in custom games, I would need my friends to help with that, as I haven't added killer bots yet to the game, so I can't just hop on Survivor by myself. Oh right, my friends. Ultimately, Dead by Daylight was an isolating experience for me. Sure, I could friend the randoms I find in solo queue, as the option is there, But why would I want to play with the same guys who call me the F-slur or teabag the killer one too many times? I want to play with the people that I care about and actually enjoy being with, but I can't because this game is very bad. And it's just not that interesting to endlessly loop killers over and over again. The main gameplay you're stuck with Survivor is repairing generators, helping your friends, and running away from the killer. And that gets really boring after a while. Not having a whole lot of agency on whether you die or not is kinda stupid in my eyes. And while playing killer is arguably more fun, as you have a wide cast of characters to play as, I'm the type of person who wants to use every killer. But I can't do that because I don't have all of them prestige yet, and do you see the issue I have with this game? I would very much like to play killers like Sadako or Demogorgon to their fullest potential, but I can't because I don't have the blood points necessary to get them out to the level of the rest of my squad. So I'm forced to play the same old killers to get the blood points necessary, which bores the shit out of me. I just don't play anymore, which is fine. Quitting doesn't have to be a grand gesture you announce on Twitter and then come back when the developers bring a new carrot in front of your face. It can be just something you do quietly. I only really play Dead by Daylight on stream sometimes, and occasionally when new blood point codes come out. I only watch DBD content occasionally now. Most of my interaction with the game now is coming up with cool ideas to spice up the game. Thanks for the Stranger Things chapter, Goose Gang. And I moved on to playing Deceive Inc., and even then I don't play it as much as possible. I play a wide variety of games. I have limited time on this earth. I don't want to keep playing a game that makes me miserable just for the grind. Okay, I was kinda being overly harsh on DBD in this review, but I hope you'll see my view on why I ultimately got burned out of it. Dead by Daylight definitely was fun at a certain point in time. There's a reason why I tried out all of the DLC. And I'll still play it. I wouldn't want that money to go to waste. But it's not my mainstay anymore for a good reason. And until they put Freddy Fazbear into the game, I really won't touch it for a while. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This is somewhat of a more personal video to make, but it's also just something that I wanted to talk about for a while. This also isn't me proclaiming that I'm quitting the game, as I've already done that before without much fanfare, so just think of this as an overly negative review. I do wish I could have squeezed a bit more positivity into this to make it a fair review, but ultimately this is how I feel about the game now, so that's why it's a bit more negative. Also, let me know if you'd like me to do more game reviews like this. I know I already did one for Deceive Inc., and that one was pretty popular, but I do kinda want to delve into this genre of video a bit more. Just let me know if you'd like to see it through the likes or comments. And yeah, that's all I have to say, so I'll see you all in the next one.